Go ahead. Talk.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You sound pretty good. How am I coming into you? Is that too loud?
It is. If you could turn my headphones down just a tad, just a smidge up a little bit.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Testing, 1, 2. Up a teeny bit.
Test 1 2.
Perfect.
Test 1 2. Hey.
Test 1 2.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Yep, sounds great. Now, what exactly were these things again? I don't remember.
They're clean dB, and they bring up the decibel level without sacrificing static. It's clean volume. When you increase the volume of something in audio, it's like fake focus. You know how you lose pixels when you focus? Well, when you increase the audio, it actually picks up everything like it's not supposed to. So this just creates more ambience, more power without picking up the background.
Got it.
Right.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at the DUM Show.
That's the way it feels. I'm just trying to make sure you understand.
Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
What's going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show, and somebody else. Who are you?
I am Olivia.
You're wearing a happy Valentine's Day.
I am. I'm all pink, and I wore my Punisher with the bow and red, and I'm wearing cup and everything.
I'm wearing blue because I didn't get to see you today, so my heart was blue.
Nice try.
I'm actually talking with Locked In with Zaza, who is on Twitter, and she's probably perusing the page, finding out who are these nutheads and why are they reaching out to me. Because as a social media influencer, you get a lot of nutters. Yeah. A lot of people who want to talk to you and set you up for failure. There's people out there who want to troll. There's people out there who want to kind of the best way to describe it is having a couple of buddies who are on the teams and going out and drinking with them. I asked the question, why don't SEALs usually talk a lot about, I mean, if you're a Ranger, it's like you walk into a conversation, it's like, hi, my name's Bob. I'm an Army Ranger. I mean, and that's pretty much like every Ranger you've ever met. And with team guys, you can go for months not even knowing what their rate is because they don't talk about it. Now, there are some team guys who've made movies and written books and all that, but that's a whole other conversation, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. But the one thing I find is that, you know, when I asked that question, there was this overall universal reason as to why team guys don't talk about it. And they said, because it's kind of like, imagine people always wanting to challenge themselves. And they're like, well, I want to say I got in a fight with a team guy, or I got in a fight with a SEAL, or I wanted to know what it was like to go up against a SEAL. And, you know, people inherently test themselves and poke the bear to somehow count coup like the Native Americans did against their enemies. And ultimately it's a stupid idea. But also there is a sense of humility that comes with the team guys. But I think that's the best way to describe it, is that there are people out there who want to challenge social media influencers and talking heads is, oh, I can debate better than them, or, oh, I could do their show. And they know very well they can't, because it's not just about talking on a microphone. It's about being able to market yourself and have the technological wherewithal to create something like this, or have an exuberant amount of money to do so in the first place. And we were the latter. We started this from scratch, and this show has advanced, and it's increased over time. But when I saw this video that's done by, and you can find her locked, LOCDINWITHZAZA, and then an underscore. I'll put it up for everybody just so you have it. Go follow her. She's got more followers than me on Twitter. She's probably checking out my social media going, oh, this guy's a scrub on Twitter. But most people don't check Facebook and other things and go, oh, wait a second. But seems like a really nice person, real smart. And we're gonna talk about that tonight. And I want you to kind of see how she presented herself. It's about 8-minute video talking about her previous existence on the left, and then and moving towards the GOP. So we're gonna talk about that tonight. So I figured I would just give her a shout out so she knows. She can't watch tonight, but I invited her on, said would love to have you come on and talk and all that stuff. Olivia, did you hear about Kansas City?
I did not know.
Very similar to the Avalanche parade or the Broncos parade. There was a mass shooting. So we're going to uncover some things. We're going to talk about this tonight, and it's going to get uncomfortable. We very well may lose our channel on YouTube or get a strike because of it. But there's a conversation that needs to take place, and it's just based in reality. And it's looking at the numbers and calling out the hypocrisy from one side, that there was an entire movement that took a knee and stopped the country from enjoying a sport over an infinitesimal number. And I'm sorry. Listen, anybody who's unarmed and shot, that sucks. But let's face it, the number is next to zero annually. And there's another comparative number where if we're going to have this reaction with unarmed shootings, then we better have this with X. And we're going to talk about that tonight. And then the third thing, oh crap, what's the third thing? Damn it, Liv. We're going to talk about Trump and Space Force. Now, this has gotten complete laughter. Like, you go talk to any branch of service. When I wear my Space Force shirt, people laugh. They're like, Space Force? That's like a mixture between the Air Force and the Salvation Army. And although people laugh, Donald Trump had a very large part in creating this, and deserves credit based upon information that we've been hearing since the conflict with Ukraine. But now there's some new information that there is a credible threat, a national security threat to the United States right now. And the Gang of Eight are being notified tomorrow. I'll explain what the Gang of Eight, who they are. There is a senator who has come out and said that they need to release this information to the public because it's concerning and it's serious. And we're going to talk about that as well. Lots of stuff tonight. Lots of stuff going on. So, Liv, how about you? You got anything going on besides Valentine's Day?
Nope. Nothing going on. But here, enjoying my Valentine's Day.
You got some nice message messages from the fans today. A lot of people had some nice things to say to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you got some questionable photographs from some fans, and I would wish you guys would stop sending those. Otherwise, everything else was pretty. What else did we get?
Oh, Chevelle sent me a picture of a Taylor Swift cake for thoughts for Hayden's birthday.
It's amazing how clear you're coming in now. It's like just that extra power, and we're not hearing any echo, or it's just with these microphones, they take up so much power. And it's kind of like, have you ever been in fifth gear going up a hill, but you have to slow down and you drop down to third? Mm-hmm. And then if you go back into fifth, what's going to happen?
You're going to slow down.
Yeah, to a point of like going 2 miles. That's the same thing with these mics. You've got to have that RPM constantly coming in here. But it sounds much better. Anyway.
You have a question. Someone's got a question for you.
Sure.
Matt, what is the difference between Space Force and Space Command? My husband was in Space Command in the 80s.
Yeah. So U.S. Space Command is ran by Air Force, and it's the same thing as SAC NORAD, Strategic Air Command, predominantly Air Force, which is run for intercontinental ballistic missile interception, but also to ensure that every single vehicle that is squawking in aerospace is accounted for, whether that be IFF or radar signature, or is being tracked for first flight purposes, or it's predominantly a clandestine type operation where it's going to fly at high altitude or use its radar absorbent material or stealth capability to encroach upon North America. These things are all tracked, and you can't send up a weather balloon in the United States without finding out. Now, I would have laughed at that joke, and I've said that joke for years, decades. You can't send up a weather balloon without the United States knowing. Well, we did know, and we allowed it to traverse the entire countryside because Joe Biden is a feckless moron. But that's the difference. So there's always been an overall U.S. Space Command, Strategic Air Command, NORAD, North Atlantic Radar Defense. They've been there, but this is different. Those platforms intercept things in our atmosphere, things that are either launched into the outer atmosphere or things that maintain itself in our atmosphere. Space Force mission is very, very different. It gives the ability to not only protect and defend U.S. assets below with, I'm being very careful, with geosynchronous targeting, like with satellites and early warning systems, and possibly, defense energy weapons that would intercept any missiles. But it's also there to protect our assets and to ensure that we monitor space. Now, this is the next frontier, and I want you to consider this, is radar was created before mass rockets were introduced. Now, Germany was one of the first countries to introduce rockets into combat, and then obviously jet propulsion aircraft. And this was like a revolutionary technology. And a jet going up against a prop is, the best way I can describe it is like The Rock going against Pee Wee Herman. There is no comparison. But the foresight to see where that technology is going is one of the reasons why radar was introduced. Also to intercept prop aircraft, we understand this, but really to address the incoming rockets and incoming bombers, because honestly, the small fighters were very difficult unless they were in mass in order to see them. But it was a technology that wasn't necessarily pertinent then, but it was future-proofing what was coming. And that's really what Space Force is. It's to future-proof and assume that there will be man-made, man-operated stations. There will be satellites that have offensive capability to hit the United States, very similar to Star Wars. And the big concern today, back then, remember, it was rockets and a few prop aircraft and bombers. The concern today is their ability with electromagnetic weaponry to hit our satellites and communication devices. This essentially is our keyhole type satellites. These are our satellites that have the ability to watch and listen and learn about what's going on all over the world without us having to physically be there from an electronic and imagery standpoint. This is our communications. This is our fast rapid response communications. These are if we need satellite communications to ground units. All of this stuff is up in space, and it is absolutely essential. That's the today worry. The tomorrow worry is hypersonic missiles. And as it was with the Cuban Missile Crisis, having nuclear weapons parked off the coast of Florida, where we would have just 7 minutes of warning before a nuclear device was detonated over Washington, D.C., a hypersonic missile shot and launched from space is less of a warning. So as a first strike weaponry, as the intercontinental ballistic missile was and the ballistic missile-based submarines were, and man-portable nukes were, this is the next evolution in the delivery of a first strike weapon. And we haven't really heard that since nuclear proliferation and certain treaties were signed with Russia and other countries to de-escalate the creation of first strike weapons. So that's the answer to your question. So simply, which I don't do short answers. The short answer is these are commands, and Space Force is a branch that is responsible for all of those things and more. I hope that answers. Was there anything else, Liv?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, so I hope that answers. So we might as well get into it. So let's do it. We got a lot going to tonight. National security threat. Got a flash, and I want to explain how I get information. I get information in several different ways. Electronic intelligence, which would be just a really flashy way of saying news articles, The Wire, and news sources, and the Flash. And the Flash is probably the most important thing, and that is news raw before it even gets filtered by news agencies. It's usually done by AP or on the ground reporting, or it's a 911 dispatch that's been intercepted, or an explosion took place and it's civilians calling in and reporting this. These are the unaccredited, unfiltered news sources that I listen to the most, because I get it before the mass media has a chance to spin it. Now, if you can't get that because you don't have the capability, which most people don't, unless you're a reporter or news agency and you have to apply for those credentials, it's not like it's very difficult. It's like $50 a year and it's easy. But the point is most people don't know about it because, it's the best kept secret. But there's another situation when once that, posthumous from when that information is disseminated and processed, you have the ability to still access and get a fairly balanced perspective with a website that I use called All Sides Balanced. And it's extremely effective. And it takes all the leftist articles, all the right articles, and all the middle, and it gives you all of them together, gives you a rating on how the story's being spun. And then you can read all those articles in one spot without having to traverse 15 different sites. And it gives you an understanding of what the narrative is. But most importantly, human intelligence. Those are people who have the understanding, have the knowledge, and then they share that knowledge with me because I've built relationships with people and there's a level of trust there. So needless to say, I got information. See, that hurt right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think what it is, it's the bronchitis, and it's remaining right here. I may have cracked a rib, but that's what it feels like. It feels like maybe I cracked a rib or pulled a muscle. It feels like when I got that ligament pull on my side of my ribs. Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like. So I'm going to get it checked out. But I'm almost positive. I read online, bronchitis can stay with you 6 months from it, and you can have chest pain and stuff. Anyway, still got to get it checked out as an ex-smoker. So when we dive into this national security threat, and Liv, I'm sorry I went on for so long, but let's go ahead and dive into what happened today. So there's a briefing video that I want to show you. First of all, that was brought up by Congressman Mike Turner. And we'll watch the video first, and then we'll kind of go from there, because this is National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who is responsible to educate us on what's going on and what's not. Now, I want to be honest with you. I'm not a false flag guy. Like, I think Alex Jones is a wanker when it comes to stuff like this. So do I believe that the government puts out disinformation? Yeah. Do I believe the government slow rolls articles and drops them on a Friday? Sure. So the weekend traffic doesn't gain traction, and then by the time Monday hits, everyone forgets? Sure. Do I believe cover stories are put out? Do I believe our government lies to us? Yes, all those things are true because I used to do it. So yes, I completely understand that that's done. But a false flag. Do they lie about a mass shooting? I think people need to stop and realize that these are people's lives. And compassion is a very rare commodity in the world today, but we've got to have a little bit better of doing less of this and more of this. So I want to watch this real quick. And Olivia, any questions available? Absolutely, obviously. But let's go ahead and rock and roll. And I've got to change my audio.
You remembered before the video
Well,
started.
that's because that's not a very good thing because
it's buffering.
It's buffering, and that's my problem. Oh crap! Don't tell me. I hope we're not going to lose. If we lose, I should always download these. I know better. I know better. Know better. Know better. Know better.
Then Mike Turner issued a statement saying,
"Come on, man.
Biden should declassify intelligence related to a, quote, serious national security threat." What can you say about the threat and what the administration plans to do?
So first, I reached out earlier this week to the Gang of Eight to offer myself for a...
Yeah, you have a question already?
Me, no.
You should.
Why?
Gang of Eight? Do you know what the Gang of Eight is?
No.
Oh, there should be a question there, right? Hey, Matt, what's the Gang of Eight? But we'll just let it pass since I pointed it out.
What is the Gang of Eight?
Too late. I'll tell you in a second.
To the Gang of Eight to offer myself for a personal briefing to the Gang of Eight. And in fact, we scheduled a briefing for the 4 House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. That's been on the books. So I am a bit surprised that Congressman Turner came out publicly today in advance of a meeting on the books for me to go sit with him alongside our intelligence and defense professionals tomorrow. That's his choice to do that. All I can tell you is that I'm focused on going to see him, sit with him, as well as the other House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. And I'm not in a position to say anything further from this podium at this time.
Congressman Mike Turner.
How many times can you say Gang of Eight in one press conference?
Well, because he's doing something. He's shifting blame. He's trying to put it in people's heads. So they ask the question because most people don't know what the Gang of Eight is. I mean, unless you've been involved in politics and studied this type of stuff, most people don't know. So
I'm going to assume it's like top intelligence officials.
Yeah, kind of. It's Senate Oversight Committee and it's Senate Intelligence. So there are 8 people at all times, and it's usually a fairly balanced representation. It can be a 3-5 or a 6. Well, not a 6-2, a 3-5 or 4-4 split usually. But these are people who the President of the United States has a responsibility to brief when there are certain conflicts where he doesn't want to notify Congress, but he wants to notify the people. It's like this, is instead of going to your boss, you go to the supervisors and kind of let them know, your supervisor first. That would be going through the chain of command in Congress. It's not doing that. It's going right to the boss. So he's going to the Gang of Eight, who ultimately, as long as they're notified, certain things can take place. And these are known people. It's nothing secret. They're made up of Senate officials. So it's usually the ranking members of the Oversight and House Intelligence Committee and Senate Oversight Committee are involved in the Gang of Eight. And the responsibility is to educate them on certain things. So the NSA regularly interacts with the Gang of Eight and tells them about world situations and keeps them informed. And the reason why they did this is because what's up? I'm going to bed. You're going to bed. It's 7:30.
She woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. Couldn't go back to bed.
Okay. I love you. Get some sleep. Love you. That's going to throw off your whole schedule. You go to sleep now. You should go run laps. Why don't you drop and give me some push-ups? So the Gang of Eight, this started happening when it came to Cuba and it came to counter drug operations in South America. There was a lot of information, a lot of clandestine operations where money, troop movements were not being notified. Congress wasn't being notified, and it was done without any oversight. So the Gang of Eight was kind of born to keep Congress informed of any paramilitary or military action in order for accountability of the president of the United States and their administration. So that's why the Gang of Eight was kind of enacted. It's designed to kind of be a safe fall for paramilitary and unapproved action that falls outside of the scope of what the president's overall level of enforcement and really parameters of their job entails. So it's a safe fall. It's a check, right? Hey, mom, dad, I'm going to go ahead and go out with a bunch of people. We're going to go drink at a kegger. No, you're not. You're going to sit down. Hey, mom and dad, I'm going to go over to the mall and get some ice cream. I'll be back by 4:30. Okay, thanks for letting us know. That's the Gang of Eight. It's going to the head and saying, this is what we're doing, but we cannot release this publicly. We can't have a closed door hearing. We cannot release this in a press release. We cannot do this in an open forum. We're telling you to notify you within the next 72 hours, these things are going to happen. We've notified you. Now fuck off. Oops. Sorry. Piss off. Does that make sense?
Yes, and all I can think about right now is Pirates of the Caribbean. What was it? The nine pieces of eight or something?
9 pieces of 8 or whatever.
Yeah, that's all I can think about right now.
So this is interesting. So I'm just gonna go through this with you guys real quick. And the reason why this whole Space Force, I mean, Olivia, you've heard a lot of conversations. Can you think of some reasons why Space Force would be necessary outside of the ones that I said?
Well, you've been saying that like the next war or whatever is going to happen, it's from space because all countries are getting like missiles up in space, right?
Well, they're not getting it, but they're looking at expanding into that because space ultimately is the only undiscovered. We're pretty much at a stalemate when it comes to water. We're stalemate at air. We're stalemate at land. The only other thing that really is left is space. So, and Antarctica. So the United States, like other countries, have a vested interest to get to space and create offensive and defensive capabilities in these locations. Now, we already have satellites that can do things that I'm not even going to get into. But the point is, it's whoever owns that area ultimately will own the ability for first strike capability.
So how do you claim owning part of space when, because, I mean, you own, the United States is the United States, and that's it. So we own the air and the water around it and everything else like that. But the Earth moves. So how do you claim it? Because our space is not going to be above the United States
but it is.
At all the time.
It is. The same space doesn't move. The same space is owned above the troposphere and the outer atmosphere. It doesn't move. It geosynchronously is with us.
Okay.
So you can there's different types of satellites. There's over the horizon satellites, which basically imagine a circle. My head is North America and down here is China, which it's actually not true. It'd be more China over here, but it's actually over here. Sorry, I'm backwards.
Just digress.
It's not what?
I said you're digressing. Just
yeah, I know, but I just want to have an accurate model. So you have the Earth, and then you put a satellite here. Well, the problem is it can't see this side, or underneath because it doesn't have line of sight. So the line of sight works in a triangle versus a circumference, right? Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to put satellites in all portions of those areas so satellites can bounce information and relay information down. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you have line of sight satellites, which essentially go around the Earth and move around with the spinning of the Earth and circle the Earth, right? And do this. Mm-hmm. So they're designed to move either slower or faster, depending, and they're not taskable. They are just in a constant free fall, moving at that rate of speed, which is 18,000 miles some odd an hour, just moving around the Earth. Then you have geosynchronous, which are designed to sync with the landmass below it to stay within geosynchronous orbit with the Earth, going around at the same rate of speed so it can actually take photos and relay information. And those are usually non-line of sight birds. Those birds also have small precision control and the ability to create a pressure or atmospheric push to retask and move. So you would send a command to that bird. That bird would ultimately use its ability to propel itself into a new location, and those satellites are, doesn't matter what they are. Those satellites are, and there you go. And then there's other types of satellites which I can't go into, but I gave you the basics, and that's what you know. So to answer your question, geosynchronous objects are capable of owning the airspace above the United States because they would simply just put them in geosynchronous orbit with the locations that they want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the space can be owned.
Okay.
And the problem is that a lot of airspace above is riddled with space garbage, an ungodly amount of space garbage. And there's so much shit up there that it makes navigating those pieces of garbage, which are other satellites and debris from the space station and everything else, and boosters, and it's just free floating garbage, is that it creates a little bit of a conundrum when you're trying to create a device that can move at will to target things below the Earth or below the current state of horizon that it's in. So I want you to imagine if a plane had to fly through a flock of seagulls, what would happen?
It's probably a few seagulls are going to die, go through the engine maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen. Hit the fuselage, hurt a hydraulics. There's a lot of things that can happen. The same thing is true with satellites. So there's a lot of different questions that need to be answered in order to navigate the current spatial focus and mission. Now, a lot of people are like, well, you can go into space and you can just you can go light speed and the chance of hitting a star. Yeah, but we're not talking about a very wide band of altitude and where we put satellites in orbit based upon where all the garbage and trash are. And this is a constant concern. We've lost satellites because of space garbage, and it's a constant focus. So you gotta respect and understand that it becomes a part of the equation when you want to talk about having any longevity in that theater. We're going to have to address those type of things. But ultimately, there's property there that needs to be claimed, and from a geosynchronous standpoint, that's where you would claim it, where no satellite would enter the North America. Well, that's a very big swath of land, and there are currently satellites that go over South America, North America, China, Russia, which are our birds, their birds. And if you start claiming territory and saying this is sovereign airspace for the United States of America, you're going to get into a world war because you're going to start shooting down Russian satellites. You're going to start shooting down Chinese satellites. Some of these satellites do topographical mapping. They do weather pattern related. They do geography and erosion. I mean, they do all sorts of things. Shoot lasers out and they go over our property and map our property topographically. All these things are done. But then you have the other ones, which are listening to conversations from that altitude, being able to zoom in onto a tic-tac box and be able to read what it is from space, using FLIR type technology, being able to see through walls. There's things that I can't even talk about that they have. And you've got to understand that if you decide to say, okay, for 3,000 miles from the west to the east and, 2,800 miles from the north to the south, it's probably less than that. I don't even know what it is north to south in North America. If it's 3,000 miles from east to west, I would say it's probably 2/3 that. So we'll just go ahead and say 2,000 miles from the north to the south. and 150 miles off of all the entire border around, even into Canada, Mexico, and the Atlantic and the Pacific, if anything enters that atmosphere, you're going to get blown up. And well, then Russia does the same thing. China does the same thing. Well, then our satellites are in a completely different situation, where there are satellites that we're using for telecommunications. There's satellites we're using for Starlink, and thousands of other things, music and cell phones that are not just United States, but Russian and Chinese and other countries. So this is a very delicate situation, and it's going to create conflict. And just like somebody would go ahead and get upset if they parked warheads off of Cuba or Turkey, people will get upset if we park warheads above Russia in geosynchronous continuation with Russia, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would that make you feel good to know that Russia's got nukes pointed right at us?
No.
Hell no. So that's going to be the next conversation. And that's why Donald Trump put this in place. Donald Trump moved this forward, and a lot of people said he was completely crazy. Now we know why. And the reason is it's not just what this current threat is today. It's hypersonic missiles. There is a growing technology of other countries who are able to have intercontinental ballistic missiles. There are several countries who have ICBM technology now. Iran and North Korea are both, North Korea being extremely close and Iran having the capability to deliver a payload now. These are concerns. So you've got to have some sort of defense. And the second thing is, we learned with the Iron Dome in Israel that imagine we could have some sort of system very close to that for like Star Wars. And now it's more realistic than it ever has. I mean, we were doing tests back then where we would launch a rocket, an ICBM, and it missed by 250 miles. Now you can have pinpoint precision. And there's other things you can do with direct energy weapons that move faster than that rocket can. And the targeting systems are more advanced. The overall computing processing systems are more advanced. So Donald Trump realized this and created the Space Force. And he deserves credit for it. And this is probably the biggest thing that frustrates me, is that, they never give Donald Trump credit for anything. But here's my one thing, Liv. What's going on right now where you think, okay, Russia, national security threat, make an innuendo, keep it real subtle, release it. What do you think is going on right now where this might be a distraction for, or help in process of moving something forward?
It's something to do with Ukraine, I would think, the Ukrainian war.
Yeah, so absolutely with Russia. So you've got right now a $96 billion bill sitting ready to go to the House. And the border thing, America's fine with it. They're kind of like, you know what? Republicans sit on the border. You guys have done it for 3 years. What's the rush now? Let's get Donald Trump in. He'll fix it the right way. Democrats are just doing this because it's an election year. And people have kind of realized it's baked into the cake. Whether right or wrong, that's the truth. So if you're not going to get pressure from Republicans on that standpoint, why not go ahead and have even more pressure put on Republicans, because there's a national security threat from Russia, because that's where it's from. This is what this intel will tell us, and it's going to be Russia wanting to put nuclear weapons into space. This isn't anything that is abnormal. We've done this for a long time. And you have a funding bill for $96 billion. So why not release this to the general public in order to get hype for this bill? That's not a false flag. That's just politics, and that's the way it works. So when he sits up here and Jake Sullivan says, who is he's a spy. He lies for a living. That's what spies do. But when he sits up there and says, hey, I don't know why the Gang of Eight wants to know this. We have a meeting tomorrow. He probably, is a little surprised that this leaked, but this could just be a move to make sure that this funding gets pushed through. And people hear this all on the media. They hear it on Fox News. It's all over the national news. And people start pushing their state representatives to pass this funding bill because they're scared. And fear is a very big motivator. And $96 billion. Liv, I want you to think about what that means. Do you remember when Comcast tried to buy Disney? Or Disney tried to buy Comcast? Do you remember that?
No.
How much was it for? Do you remember? No, you don't remember because you weren't there. So the original nested value was like 32 billion, and Comcast drove it up over 51. That bought one of the largest media moguls as far as Fox, from movies rights to Marvel movies to it didn't buy Fox News, but it bought anything else that was under Fox. And that was for 50 billion, 49 or 51 billion. I can't remember which one it was. This is $96 billion. That's a lot of money. And the U.S. government has interest to move this money to where they promised it to go. They have defense contractors waiting on this money to build armaments. Those defense contractors donate to politicians. They have the squeeze on them. So when we look at this, you have to assume that we're kind of playing coy and stupid when we say that $96 billion isn't going to come with a considerable amount of world pressure, local pressure, and influence in Washington. What about leaking a brief without getting in any specifics about some unknown national security threat and punt it to the NSA to have him address it on the podium and create fear for people to make phone calls and say, you need to vote for this bill now. We need to stop Russia, because not only is Russia going to go into Ukraine, and they're going to go into Poland, and they're going to take over. NATO is going to be activated, and all your kids are going to be sent over. That hasn't scared people enough. So now tell them Russia wants to go ahead and put space balls into space. And, Emperor Scrooge wants to, launch nukes at the United States. I believe that they're doing this to garner support for the $96 billion foreign aid and supposed border bill.
Can we get 1% of that 96 billion?
I don't even
since it's a worthless bill. Let's just put the Don't Unfriend Me show on
give me
there.
give me 0.01. Give me 0.0. I don't think you understand how much 96.
How much is 1% of what bill? I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, one person. Okay, so let's just do it this way. It's easier to do it this way. Work your way up.
Okay.
What's 50% of 96 billion?
That's gonna be 48.
That's right. 48 billion. Okay, so now do 25% of 48 billion.
That's 24.
That's 50%.
Oh.
So do a quarter.
A quarter of 48.
So take 50 and then do a quarter of 48.
Hang on. 12.
Right.
Okay.
So now you're at 12 billion. Okay, so that's a quarter. Now do 10% of 12 billion. That's 1.2 billion.
Okay.
Now do 1%. That's 120 million.
I'll take that.
Now that's 1%. I said 0.01%. 0.01% is essentially $10.2 million.
I'll take that too.
I'll take that right there. You give me 0.10% and I'll be happy for the rest of my life at $10 million. I'll have the best damn show in the world. So I do. It's not 1 billion. 0.01% of 96 is not 1 billion. 10% is 9.6. So 960 million would be 1%. And then 0.01% is 900. Well, it would be 96 million. Actually, we're wrong. So 10%, shit. So you have 96 billion, 10% is 9.6. I shouldn't have done the math with you. I shouldn't have done the quarter. It's 9.6. 1% would be 960 million, and 0.01% of 96 million is, of 960 million is 96 million. It would be $96 million. I shorted myself. I'll take 0.01%. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I'm good with that.
All right. So the point is, now that we're not going to get that, so the whole national security thing is, to me, I'm not saying this is a ploy, but you don't leak stuff like this unless you want a reaction. And what's the point of the reaction?
Is so the American people see it and they overreact.
And get scared. And when that happens, you get your constituents versus the political action committee, special interest group, leaning more leverage on you. Like you'll have your fundraisers come in and say, hey, listen, we raised you $1.7 million for your state legislature campaign. Either you get this done or you're not going to see office, in 6 months. That's different than the NRA or Planned Parenthood or teachers union coming up to and saying, listen, you're going to lose our support nationally when you want to run for Senate. And you're like, yeah, but I gotta keep my House position right now. So screw the Senate. I can't worry about 5 years from now. I need to worry about now. Different situation. So my point is that this draws up support. This increases the whole boogeyman thing with Russia, that Russia wants to, destroy the United States. I think people need to stop and understand that, yes, Vladimir Putin is a dictator. There's no doubt. He's a dictator. He is tyrannical. He rules with the former Soviet Union Iron Curtain mentality, but that doesn't mean he wants to destroy America. There are plenty of other threats that I'm more concerned with.
Bless you.
See, that hurt real bad.
Could be a
Right
pulled
here.
muscle.
It's right under my pectoral.
Could be a pulled muscle.
I hope so. I hope so. The good news is I'm not losing weight or gaining weight, so that's the first sign. You start dropping 10, 15 pounds, you need to get to the doctor fast. So I'm steady as she goes, like I always am with my weight. I think it's the bronchitis, and I think I cracked or pulled something here, so I just got to go get it checked out.
Well, I found an 8:15 on Monday. You could drive me to work on Monday morning.
Let's have a conversation after the show.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, good topic. That brings us in 7:49. Next topic, we're going to talk about Kansas City. First, I want to play a commercial for the Documents of Freedom. Folks, real quick, before we do Documents of Freedom, kind of excited, got a chance to make a couple shirts today.
They're awesome.
Yeah, and I'll actually take you to the site. All right, let's do that real quick. So we have the Red Friday shirts officially out, which they are super cool, dare I say. And we've got mugs. We've got long sleeve, because I know all the women get mad at me. Where are my long sleeves? Where are my hoodies?
The long sleeves.
Yep. Where are my hoodies? Where are my long sleeves? Well, here they are. So, and we've got cups. We Wear Red on Fridays are officially out. You can go over to the store and pick those up. Remember to use code DUM10. Save 10%. But we are doing the Documents of Freedom. Here we go, and then we'll be right back. Hey, what's going on, Donut Friendly Nation? Matthew Spear from the Donut Friendly Podcast. It's interesting. I've had these books for, 3 years now. And I've got, 3 independent books of the Declaration, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution of the United States that I inherited from my mother. Leather-bound, beautiful. And they're older books, 1935, 1937, something to that effect. I'll show them on the show, but people see me reference these nightly on the show. And the interesting thing is I've never really put two and two together. We have a website, and someone asked last night, hey, how the heck do I get those books? Where do I get those books? And it dawned on me that I should provide these. So they are now on sale. They're beautiful books. They're leatherette books. They're hardback, which is nice. They don't have a dust cover or anything. I've used these, like I said, ad nauseum, and they hold up and they stand the test of time. They've got pictures of the framers, founders, inside the books. They make references with different colors to kind of explain things in a little bit of a simpler way or give some context. But these books, word for word, are the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. They are absolutely stunning. You get each book individually for $15.99 over at thedumshow.com. We also have a bundle over there where you can save $5 on all three for $44.99. And last but not least, the pictures you've just been looking at and the video is the Documents of Freedom, custom made by PFC Flags, comes in an amazing, beautiful, decorative box for $64.99. Stop by thedumshow.com and take a look. They're available right now. So if you already thank you. If you already ordered, this is what they look like. And they are cool. And you can see, if I turn that a certain way, the star is embossed. So it looks three-dimensional. It's an incredible engraving done by PFC Flags. Now, I think we're out. I think the boxes, we sold our last one last night. So the next shipment is going to go on the 29th. So if you ordered last night or the day before, it's probably not going to ship till the 29th. So we have to buy the books, get them from the vendor, and then Jason has to craft them, and he does them. He's not making them per order. We're doing them in a pre-order bulk. So if you're interested in buying them, go on over there, do that. You don't get the 10% off on the books. I'm sorry, there's just no margin in it. So the wood crafting alone for material and Jason's time, it takes him about an hour and a half for each box. That's a lot of time. So unfortunately, we have to not have the 10% off on that. But everything else in the show is go see it. All right. Kansas City shooting. Liv, let's talk about this. So
Okay.
You and I know these parades very well with the Colorado Avalanche parade. You and I were in Denver. We've seen these with the Avs winning 3 cups. We've seen the Denver Broncos obviously win.
The Nuggets last year.
The Nuggets. And you know, these things are big for us. And we saw the Astros. We were there at opening night for the Astros. And I was on the field and you were on the field and so were the kids. And we got to go down and do that, which was great. All of those things are awesome. And, you know, this is why I carry everywhere. And this is also why I don't go out anymore. I've realized since COVID, I don't get out. And it doesn't bother me. I get out occasionally and go, you know, walk on the patio and, you know, whatever. But we don't go out and do a lot. And the reason why is because it seems like we've been impacted by mass shootings, maybe not directly, but indirectly based upon where we live. The Aurora Theater shooting, El Paso Mall in Cielo Vista. What else am I missing?
Columbine.
Yeah, Columbine. And then I knew, God, at least 10 people who were at the Vegas shooting. Just Republicans who were listening to that Jason Aldean concert. Dan from the coffee shop, the Minuteman Coffee was there. And a couple other people who I know don't want to be named were there. And you know, it's just, it seems to be an epidemic, you know, that is impacting everybody. But we have to keep it in perspective. Now, I'm going to say some things that are probably not going to be very popular, but this is the scene as it unfolded, and there's no violence here. So I want to make sure that Facebook doesn't, or YouTube doesn't throttle us. But here is the event.
Thank you, Kansas City. Thank you, Chiefs Kingdom.
So heard some small arms fire there, what it sounded like. I can't imagine that an AR is loud. And it's going to reverberate in a concrete jungle.
No one's running.
Not yet, because people don't know what's happening. People thought it's fireworks, probably. I mean, when you're in that situation, most people don't know the difference between gunfire. I guarantee every person who's running right now is a veteran. Or a veteran's father who said, geez, dude, knock it off. A veteran's father who said, you know, let's go. Because that guy's Marine. And he's moving with his girl. You can tell the guy was a short buzz who was at like 1 o'clock. But most people don't know the difference between gunfire and fireworks. And that's, you'll hear me. I'm sitting in the front room and we hear it. I'm like, firework, firework, firework. And then you know when it's gunfire because I'm usually up and I'm drawn and I'm going outside.
Yeah.
But this type of thing is just insanity. Did not sound like an AR to me. AR's loud. It's loud.
What do you think was a handgun?
Yeah, probably 9mm, possibly a higher caliber. Also, the amount of rounds that were fired, I didn't hear more than 12, 13 rounds. So it doesn't lead me to believe it'd be a high capacity mag. And 30 mag is not a high capacity, but that's the terminology used today. Now, they did have somebody in custody. They have 3.
Oh, Jesus.
They have.
Me.
I'm sorry.
wasn't expecting that.
They have. That happens with audio. I'm sorry. They have.
So where did it take place?
This is at the outside the stadium. It looks like.
Looks like they're running into it, though. I didn't think the parade was in the stadium.
Well, once again, you could have had people who fled. They fled in there. We don't know where they were shooting from. So they could have got an elevated position inside the stadium, snuck in, and were firing from an elevated position, which would make sense. I don't know. Everything I'm saying is speculation. I don't know anything about this in detail. I do know 3 people were arrested. I know one of them was wearing a hoodie, light gray pants, was African American. At least what it looked like from the photographs. But once again, I don't speculate within the first 24 hours. I wait for all the facts to come in, and then I report on them. I will tell you this, is that there were several people shot. Right now, I think the report was 10 and several more injured, and there was actually children shot. I don't have all the details. Somebody says, according to the news, FBI was in attendance of the parade. Well, that would make sense. I would have the FBI at every single event nowadays, and this is where it's going to come to. The reaction was 3 minutes. If you look from when the first shot was fired and where police were at, there was a heavy police presence there. Nowadays, it's kind of, yes, it would be standard operating procedure to have a law enforcement presence there. A lot of people are like, oh, well, the FBI was there, so it's a plant or a false flag. See, the problem is we're damned if we do, if we're damned if we don't. We sit there and go, well, the FBI doesn't do anything proactively, and they let people go, and these mass shootings happen. And then it's like, okay, well, now the FBI's there. Well, it's all a plant and a false flag. You guys, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Which one is it? Either you want the FBI there or you don't want the FBI there. And for me, and I don't know what Olivia thinks, but I don't care where I'm at, the highest level of presence of law enforcement is a good thing.
Yeah.
So it happened at Union Station parking garage. Okay, so I don't know how far or close that is to the stadium. I would assume it's fairly close. But there are a lot of reasons why those police are going in there. Maybe they don't know where the shooter is. Maybe they're going in to sweep it. Maybe they have reports of somebody in there. 23 were shot, 8 were kids. I don't know. Once again, I have no idea. I don't know the details. I'm not going to even speculate on the details. I'm going to let the professionals do that, and I'll give you my assessment afterward. But here's what I want to talk about. And this is the thing that we should be focused on, okay? The first thing I am hearing about all of this is ban guns. Ban guns. I put up a post today that has a heart. It's a chocolate box, and it has a bunch of ammo in it, and it says, you know, this is the fastest way to a man's heart. And people are like, and women. Dude, do you guys know what I was trying to say? I wasn't talking about Valentine's, but saying the fastest way to his heart is to shoot him. But you guys missed that double entendre completely. It wasn't a Valentine's Day post, but it doesn't matter. Some people got it. Military people are like, oh, that's funny. I get it. And I'm like, thanks. People are immediately blaming the guns. Other people are defending the guns. You know, there was a time in this country where we would take a moment and lower some flags and reflect and hug our kids a little extra tight that night, or say a little prayer. We don't do it anymore. We go right to the cold, distant, sarcastic, and vitriolic way that we communicate. And here's some questions for you, and I want everyone to think about this. I just want you to think about this. Liv, why did Colin Kaepernick and everyone take a knee?
It was about racial injustice or something like that.
In particular, Summer of Love and BLM. Why did that kick off all the riots? You remember?
No, I don't.
George Floyd.
Oh, that's right.
So the whole thing about unarmed black shootings.
That's right. Yep.
How many unarmed how many unarmed shootings do you think take place in the United States annually on average? Give me a guess.
Unarmed?
Yeah, really take your time. Think about that. That could be a person reaching for a knife. That could be a person reaching for a gun. That could be a person who is beating the shit out of a cop. That could be a person who's beating the shit out of somebody else and picks up something. It could be someone who says, I have a gun. How many do you think? And nobody write these answers down. Let the conversation take place. And don't you read chat.
So are you talking about like if they're reaching for a gun and they get shot before they get the gun?
Unarmed. Okay, ready? This is the easiest way. Olivia's not in front of me, by the way. This is armed. This is unarmed. I don't care if it means that it's in plain sight and I'm reaching for it. It's not in plain sight and I'm reaching for it. There is no weapon in my hand. There is no direct threat. Don't read chat. I see you reading chat.
I'm not reading chat.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at you.
I've been with you for 25 years. I know when you're reading chat. I saw your eyes. Stop reading.
Looking at
I'm
you.
asking you as a host, turn off chat and focus on me. How many do you think happen annually?
Across the United States, maybe
Million. Okay, let me tell you this. There's also there's 500 million police interactions annually.
500 million police. Okay.
I'm talking pulling people over, reports, just talking to a cop on the side of the street, whatever, getting pulled over, whatever it is.
Maybe 1,000?
1,000 out of 500 million interactions.
I don't know.
You think there's 1,000? Keep guessing.
I'm assuming I was a little cold there, and it's a lot higher.
Well, if we just figured out 0.1% of 96 billion of $96 billion is 96 million. Out of 500 million police interactions, do you think it's less than 0.1%? Do you think it's less than 5 million?
I would say 1%, maybe.
Well,
of all
that's
of them.
okay. So now you're talking an incredible amount of people. You're talking 5 million people murdered by police.
Ooh, yeah.
So what about 0.1? You think that's feasible? So that would be 500,000.
You know what? I'm gonna go with 0.0001.
And you would be closer, but you're still way off. So on average, combined, now let's break it down by race. So that's black, white, Latino. Latino is white, by the way. That's the way it's written in the demographic. Even though only about 63% of the population is white, there's an additional 11.5%, which is Hispanic, that's included in the white population. So there's actually, when it comes to unarmed white shootings, on average, 230 in the U.S. 230 interactions annually, white people are killed unarmed. How many do you think, now that you know 230, how many African-American minorities do you believe are killed annually? Knowing that you got 230, based upon the narrative you're hearing and what you hear from the media.
1,500?
1,500. That's insane. What if I told you it was 13?
Really?
Would that shock you?
Yeah, it totally would.
13 on average. 2022, 13 were killed. There's been years where it's 17, 13, but overall, unarmed black shootings, 13. Now, how many black on black shootings do you think there would happen in inner cities annually?
Oh, gosh.
30,000? Right.
Probably more, considering there's like 20 a weekend in Chicago.
You have to understand, overall gun deaths are not just shootings. They're also suicides. They're also legitimate shootings, people who are protecting themselves. But predominantly, most of it is accidental shooting or suicide. That makes up most. So how many shootings, mass shootings, do AR-15s overall accumulate and account for?
AR-15s?
Yeah, how many mass shootings are conducted with AR-15s annually? What percentage do you think of those mass shootings that take place? Because they say like 550 mass shootings have taken place.
And that includes anyone
annually.
that's over 2 people.
No,
right?
don't spoil. Just keep answering the questions. So you got 500 plus. This is a show. We don't go. No, I'm going to tell you where the rabbit's coming from. That he has the dove up his sleeve. No, can't do that. Even though you're super smart on this. So 500 plus mass shootings annually is what they say.
Okay.
Like right now, there's already been like 148 so far this year is what they're saying. How many of those have AR-15s?
10.
11.
I was darn close.
11% are AR-15s. How many make up?
11% or 11 total?
No, 11%.
Okay, I was thinking 10 total. Okay, so
11% of mass shootings have AR-15s involved. How many have handguns?
Then I'm going to go with 89%.
About 67%. How many with shotguns?
Then that would be
Right, and then you have
the remainder.
Then you have all of the. Well, no, because then you've got you've got bolt action and everything else. So the point is that AR-15s are not the most dangerous weapon as we've been told. We also found out that unarmed black shootings is a myth. We found out that AR-15s is a myth because more people are killed in mass shootings by handguns than AR-15s, even when the assailant has an AR-15, which is interesting. So now,
I remember in Dallas when the Dallas shooting happened, the BLM riot. There was a black guy who, because it's Texas and you can open carry, had an AR strapped to his back, and automatically people thought he was the assailant. And he was on the news as that, and no, he wasn't. He was just there peacefully.
Yeah, I still don't like that shooting because I saw that guy maneuver, and that guy's had some formal training in CQB. That guy, I still don't, I don't feel good about that shooting because I watched that thing live. You remember, I saw it, and I said, oh my God, there's 5 officers down because Fox blinked it and didn't mean to. And I said, there was just, they're killing cops.
Yeah, I totally remember that. Yep.
And I flipped out over it. And I wish I had a show at that point. But let's continue this dialogue, is that we understand that unarmed black shootings are a myth. When it comes to the percentage of interactions that police have and the overall deaths, it's a fraction of a percentage. So here's the question. This is what's concerning. Why are 230 white people killed annually?
That I don't know.
Because they make up about 50% of violent crime in the United States. Okay. But they're also the largest demographic. We just said they're roughly 61% of the U.S. population is white, not considering the Latino persuasion as well. So they own 50% of most of the violent crime in the United States. But their population is 63% of the U.S. population. How big is the African-American population?
Aren't they like 23%?
Lower than that. So you're looking,
13?
Yeah, you're looking between 15 and 17% of the African-American population, which this will be the largest African-American population voting. So a lot of people are like, well, Donald Trump has the largest percentage of black voters ever. Yeah, but this is a bigger voting base than ever. More people are voting for Joe Biden too. But here's the interesting thing. But African-Americans own 50% of the violent crime in the United States. They own the other 50%. Now, of course, there's other 2% for Chinese and 7% for Latino. So it's not exactly 50%. But if you look at most of the violent crime, it's owned by whites and blacks proportionately. In fact, most violent crime, African-Americans own more of the crime when it comes to strong-arm robbery, when it comes to assault and battery, when it comes to drug paraphernalia, abuse, homicides. African Americans own more of it, but only own a fraction of the population. So proportionately, if they own 50% of the crime, shouldn't they have 50% of the overall shootings and deaths?
You would think.
But they don't. And why don't they? It's real simple. It's real simple. If you have 13 average to 17 average of unarmed shootings for black people annually, and you have 230 plus for white people, what would be just looking at the data, empirical evidence, and saying this has to be the reason why? What's it stating? What's it saying about cops? What's it saying about cops? They're
not racist.
No, it's a simple statement. Cops kill more white people than black people who are unarmed. Fair enough?
Yeah.
But blacks own an equal portion of it. So therefore, cops are more hesitant to shoot black people than they are white people. Is that
yes.
Without any investigation into that data, without proving that hypothesis, because it's unproven and unfounded, that is what the data leads you to believe. And what it truly leads you to believe is that white people, they say, are treated better. And that's not the case in this case. Now, when it comes to racial profiling, when it comes to stereotyping, of course, these things there is no doubt that African Americans deal. But when you own 50% of the crime, I don't think any white people are complaining when they're in meth-laden neighborhoods getting pulled over and saying this is for race. No, it's because you're in an area you shouldn't be. And African Americans are predominantly in places who do commit crime in those areas, are there to commit crime. So it's a skewed number. And when you have a very small demographic that owns that much of the crime, that means more people in that demographic are going to have a case of being impacted versus a large overall demographic of white people. Less people are going to be impacted. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you feel like, you're a small knit community of African-American people because your numbers aren't as prominent as white, the story of a white person getting pulled over would never be, well, that white cop was racist against me. But of course it's going to be in the black community because, first of all, there's a propensity for more of that to happen. And usually it would be a white cop. So therefore racism would be involved. But how many white people do you hear say, well, that cop was black, so therefore he's racist? You don't hear it at all.
No.
So when we sit here and hold these things, it's a lie. Now, let me tell you something else, and this is the most important thing. If we're literally going to take knees and we're going to disparage the thin blue line and lie and say that black people are killed unarmed more than any other demographic and it happens repeatedly, if we're going to lie and say that, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's fine if we want to say that. It's a lie. But we can say it. Then I want to say this, and this is where we got to be careful. This year alone, out of all the mass shootings, can you please explain to everybody what, in your best of your ability, what a mass shooting qualifies as a mass shooting? What do you think of it? And what is it? There are two
When
different
you
things.
think of a mass shooting.
What do you think of it? And what is it? Two different things, right? What's your perception of it? And then what actually is it is? Give that to me real quick.
Perception is mass shooting going into a school or a movie theater, or the ones that always get the media attention. That's what you think of with a mass shooting.
Sure.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's when 3 or more people get injured or shot. Is that considered a mass shooting?
It depends on the organization doing the stats. If it's the FBI, it is a shooting that results in more than 4 casualties. Casualties being harmed. Doesn't have to be dead.
Okay.
And what number do you think makes up mass shootings as the one you described, going into a school, going into a mall? What percentage of shootings are made up of mass shootings? Out of that 547 some odd that they say that happen a year.
Maybe 1%.
It's actually a little higher than that.
5.
Okay. So going in, it's about 7% of those mass shootings are mass scale, going into a mall, going into an unarmed school, going into a church. And there are definitely a ton of those. Okay. But when they say there's a mass shooting every day, now there's 1.5 every day, they're leaving out some very detailed evidence, empirical evidence, that changes the narrative completely. What do you think that would be? What are they not considering? What type of shootings? Can you think of another type of shooting that happens with 4 or more people?
Gang
shootings,
Yeah.
gangland style shootings. That's going in, killing rival gang members, doing a drive-by, hitting civilians, 4 people hurt. How many do you think that makes up?
I'm going to go with like 65%.
Yeah, it's higher than that. It's almost
Really?
72% of those shootings are gangland style shootings. And if you look at that, it has to do with crime or it has to do with a larger scale besides gangland shootings, which would be someone's trying to rob a home or someone is doing a murder-suicide, things to that effect. You're talking like a whopping 87 some odd. I don't even have the actual number. It is almost 90% of those mass shootings are done outside of the normal thought process of what a mass shooting would look like.
So I've got a quick question
Yeah.
for you. Since you said the whole murder-suicide,
Yeah.
what if with that, people...
The person who commits suicide is considered a casualty, by the way.
Yes, I do know that, but
so
no,
if that
it was
person
a
shoots
different-
3 people and
different
themselves,
question.
no, but if we got to get to it. If that person shoots themselves and 3 other people, that's considered a mass shooting. Go
What
ahead.
if other people were injured or killed by something other than a gun, but the person who committed suicide shot himself?
Yeah, if, like say if a bullet hits a piece of concrete, comes up and chips and hits them in the temple. And
Or what if
cuts
they
them.
use a knife to do it?
It's still considered that because it's considered a casualty. And usually the propensity of the crime is considered first. So if the person has a knife and stabs a person, then breaks out of a gun and shoots 4 people, it's going to be considered a casualty based upon the shooting and not necessarily the knife. The knife index will still get that by the FBI, but a lot of statisticians don't. They don't consider suicide. They don't consider, a lot of those mass shootings are somebody doing a murder-suicide. A lot of those are drive-by shootings where they don't consider secondary people getting hurt, or return fire, where somebody's returning, 2 gangs are returning fire and it's hitting the assailants and it's hitting on other innocent civilians. Those are considered mass shootings. Suicide is also included in this if the suicide is of a group of blank or more. So if multiple people commit suicide at the same time, and it does happen, ritualistic suicide is a real thing and people do it together. Those are considered to be included in mass shootings. You have to be very careful with the statistics. The truth is, to have someone come into an establishment that you're in, no matter how crazy it is, we've lived in 4 of them, Liv. We've lived right, and it didn't happen to us. But we've seen and heard these things. But in all eventuality, over a long enough timeline, yeah, if we lived for thousands of years, you would probably be involved or have some loved one. But how many of you have loved ones who are involved in mass shootings?
I don't know of anyone.
Yeah.
I know of somebody who was involved in a murder-suicide, but...
Right, and I know the same. But my point is, I do know somebody. But the chances of it happening to you are slim and far between. So this is the real thing that I wanted to talk about. That's going to get me in some hot water. This one really is. So if it's 13 to 17 unarmed black shootings are done annually, and we literally have to have a spot in the city to have a statue and have a false idol of George Floyd that we bring flowers to and pay homage to, that we have to all take a knee, that we have to create gun-free zones and strip the Constitution away from people, and we have to do all this. We have to disparage the U.S. flag. We have to light it on fire. We have to piss on it and stomp on it. We have to create secondary national anthems that aren't true, that we can't show favoritism to veterans and 9/11, but we can go ahead and support BLM and socialist movements on the back of our helmets because of 13 people to 17 people, which I feel for those people, but no, actually, no, I don't. I don't feel for any. I don't know any of those people. It's sad. But tens of thousands are killed in the Congo every single day, and I don't know them either. So I certainly can give empathy, but not sympathy. So I'm not going to pretend sympathy. But let me ask you a question. If that is such a concern, and it's a national crisis that we have to stop everything, few and far between, and create laws against this, retrain our police force, defund the police. How many transgender shooters have there been this year, mass shooters? If we just established that the amount of mass shootings, the ones that we described, are sub 100 annually, how many mass shooters did we have from February of 2023 to February of 2024?
1?
7.
There's only one I heard of.
And what percentage of the transgender population is in the United States today?
Are they like 2%? 1%?
Less than that. It's like considering people who are considered to be transgender, mixed gender, whatever. You're looking at a microcosm, less than 0.6%. Yet, if I can tell you that we have less than 100 of those mass shootings in that style that we're talking about, that aren't gangland shootings, that aren't done in the basis of crime or return fire or accidental shootings or whatever. If you're talking sub 100 and 7 of them have committed those crimes, which
7%.
would be almost 10% actually, with a population of 0.6 of the entire U.S. population. But if you look at overall transgender crime, suicide, rape, incest, drug use, the propensity of that demographic is, it's sad. It's horribly ill-proportionate compared to every other race and demographic based on sexual orientation and who they identify with. The level of trauma that happens in that community is incredible. But so are the numbers when the news media says there is no astronomical increase in transgender shooters, yet it doesn't need an increase. It needs to be addressed. It addresses the crisis when it comes to the stability of the mind And I am not saying that transgender people want to hurt people. In fact, I'm saying the exact opposite. What I'm saying is it's not a demographic. It's not based upon color of skin. It's not economic viability. It's not intellectualism. It's not spiritualism. There's no other common factor outside of an inanimate object as a firearm or a knife or a hammer or a Glock or whatever, or a car. So there's no rhyme or reason, because we know the AR-15 isn't what causes it. It's not the ammo that causes it. The only commonality in all of these things is mental illness. And for us to sit here and try to dignify this as something other is an effort in futility.
Mental illness is so taboo to talk about, and it needs to not be. It needs to be out there that it's okay to say, I'm depressed, or I've got anxiety, or I've been thinking these bad thoughts. And you shouldn't be looked down upon for saying that. I mean, so many celebrities have come out and looked down upon other people and other celebrities for saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, when Brooke Shields came out with postpartum, I mean, she's an avid talker about it. I mean, have you seen Brooke Shields lately?
I know she put on some weight. I don't know where she's at now.
Exactly. And that's when Tom Cruise was super popular, and Tom Cruise like went to war with her over it. And people think that it's not true, that you're making it up. Well, it is true. I can say I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at 25.
Yeah.
I had severe postpartum depression with both pregnancies, more Ethan than Hayden. It's not something that people make up to get attention. It is real, and it needs to be acceptable to talk about in today's day and age. And more celebrities need to come out about that than which political party to vote for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's concerning to me because I know better. And the numbers don't lie. And the guns are an easy thing to blame it on. But you know what it would be like? It'd be like, okay, COVID is here. And instead of people taking personal accountability for their hygiene, wearing a mask, getting the vaccine, drinking their vitamins, staying healthy, working out, you know, whatever you would want to go ahead and say to do, it would be like, we need to go ahead and scrub the air to ensure that every remnant and molecule of the COVID disease is eradicated from the air. You're boiling the ocean. It's not only an impracticality, it's an impossibility. You're working so far around the problem that you'll never actually address the problem. It's not the air that's the problem. It's individuals' personal choices that decide their exposure to this. And the same thing is true to mass shootings. You have a solution you can carry. And you can have a fighting chance. Or you can stay inside. But when you create a gun-free zone, which eliminates the ability for people to protect themselves, but enhances the probability that the shooter will be successful, you're trying to scrub every piece of oxygen on this planet to eradicate a disease that will continue to spread because you're not addressing the problem. It's like global warming. Remember when the rainforest was the big thing? What did they say? Plant trees. Mm-hmm. Well, in order to go ahead and plant trees, every single person would have to plant 10 trees for just one that was destroyed in the Amazon based upon the size of those trees, the overall, ability to grow, the speed at which they grow in an incredibly rich, rotten vegetation, which is amazing for fertilization and natural soil redundancy. All of these things, you would have to plant 10 trees. That wasn't the issue.
Stop cutting down the rainforest.
Stop cutting down the rainforest is the issue, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. What people don't actually address, and this just came out in an article today, you guys should look it up, it's amazing, is the CO2 increase in the atmosphere, which is ridiculous. Now, the value of increase is like based upon a 2 and a 4. If we get to 5, we all die. And if we get to 1, all plant life dies, and then we all die. So this ratio of, falling in between 2 and 4%, when we go up 0.0001%, it's not that big of a deal. But if you go up above 4, we're all dead. If you go below 1, we're all dead of the amount of CO2 in the air. But with the increase of carbon, CO2 in the air that we have, plants and trees and shrubbery and grass are growing at a faster rate than ever recorded before. Vegetation is growing at a rapid clip. And no longer do you hear about the rainforest, because the earth will find a way, and it will repopulate and ultimately kick us all off this mortal coil whenever it wants to, with a cataclysmic event, if it finds itself in danger, because it has a heartbeat, it has blood, it has liquidity, it has firm, strong, resolute skin, it has a nervous system, and it reacts. It's alive, and it's breathing, and we see it breathe all the time on a long enough timeline. You see it with the ice, the polar ice caps. You see it with the clouds. It is alive. And there may not be a brain and a heart and a lung, but the equivalency can be put into comparison contrast with what we understand as life. And it will fight back. But to see that plants are growing that means that more animals are getting vegetation. And if more animals are getting vegetation, that means there are more flowers, which means there's more bees and there's more pollination. So then the big scare is, okay, well, now we got to go. The bees, they're getting impacted by the cell towers, and they can't figure out how to get from point A to point B. But what they don't talk about is that there's other insects that also do the same thing, that butterflies do the same thing, that bumblebees do the same thing. There's plenty of even just natural transfer of pollination that happens naturally outside of bees. Then you hear murder hornets. Then you hear the ozone. And it's always something with these liberals. But that article is so interesting because it explains that with that slight increase in CO2 in the air, it's actually created more life. And although it may have long-term detrimental effects to humans, it may actually sustain life on planet Earth long after we've left, based upon that the Earth adapts. It adapted to the Ice Age. It adapted to blackouts. It adapted to volcanoes. It adapted to massive amounts of CO2 released in the atmosphere with volcanoes. And if you just go back 30 years, Liv, you heard volcanoes going off all the time. And now we hear it very rarely. How much CO2 is put in the air and sulfur dioxide and other poisonous chemicals from volcanoes going off constantly. The Earth will survive. So the whole point of the conversation is that we have a nasty habit in this country and in this world to overreact to things and not slow down and actually give it a chance to play out and think. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Instead of jumping to conclusions and reacting.
Yeah.
I mean, step back and look at everything before. Just like the guy in Texas who everyone blamed he was the shooter and he had nothing to do with it.
Yep.
And now he owns that news channel, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he sued him.
And should. So I wanted to show this video. And I have not watched the entire thing in its entirety. The entire thing in its entirety. Talk about redundant. This is social media influencer Locked In with Zaza. And you can find her on Twitter. Just had a conversation via text and said, got to get you on my show. She's like, show me where to see it. I want to watch it later. Super, super kind person. She's still responding to people, which she's got a video that's over 1 million. It's going viral. Now her channel's going to blow up. So she's still responding. God love her, because I don't respond to a lot of things.
Did you reach out to her?
Yeah. I just reached out to her and said, hey, great video. Congratulations on your success. Watched it, liked it. And I hope she's not turned off by our conversation tonight. But I want you to listen to this because honestly, it's a young person's perspective. She's got a Make America Great Again hat. She reminds me of Raven Simone from The Cosby Show.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yep.
She looks a lot like her. So I want to listen to this. I want you to listen to it and tell me what you think. It's about 8 minutes, and it's worth it. And we might interrupt in between here and there and give some commentary. Let's give it a chance. Hopefully we can get her on the show. Here it is.
Hello to everybody who watches this. My name is Zakia Cooper, and I am a 23-year-old Christian conservative from Chicago. This is going to be my walk away story because I was 100% Democrat. I was on the Democratic plantation, and I was happy with that.
Oh, I'm already.
So let me go ahead and tell y'all this story.
I already love her. She calls the Democrat inner city the plantation, and I've been saying that for 3 years. The modern day slave plantations. I love that she says that. That's great. Okay, here's the rest.
So, in 2021, I moved into my first apartment, and the apartment that I chose to move into was like a dorm style room where you would share a bathroom with a roommate of the same gender. That's what my lease said, and I was okay with that because I really wanted to move out. And so I move out, and I don't have a roommate initially, right? So I'm living there by myself for 1 full year, and I'm happy with that. A year passes, and I slowly noticed that the bathroom that I had to myself is showing signs of being used by a man because I'm seeing that the toilet seat is up. And so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we have a serious problem with, here's the thing, because if you want equality, why the hell do I have to put it up?
Because I don't know if you're going to use it, because I could say I use the bathroom like 75% more than you.
No, you want equality. Why do I have to? Why don't you put it up for me?
Because I don't know if you're going to use the bathroom again.
I don't know if you're going to use the bathroom again.
It's just like driving the car. You never drive the car. I'm not going to put it on your seat setting because I know 99% of the time.
Then don't complain about it when you actually go into my car and sit on the toilet seat and it's up. Assume it's going to be up, just like I have to assume it's down. Why? See, you want equality, but you don't want equality. You still.
I am not. I did not burn my bra, so I'm not a part of this conversation.
No, I know you're not, and I love you for it. That's why I pee all over the seat, just to remind you how equal you are.
I didn't know I had a roommate, but I just assumed that I had a roommate that was a girl because that's what they told me. I had a female roommate, and she had a boy or something over there who was using the bathroom. So I'm like, whatever. He's dirty because he's not flushing the toilet, and he's leaving the seat up all the time, but whatever.
Now, that's something I do not. You have to flush the toilet. That's disgusting.
This is what happens when you move in a conjoined situation. So I was satisfied, I guess. But I slowly realized that it was a man in my room, y'all. A man. A trans woman. And I realized it's because I see the person. I see this man that they moved in my room. I came out one day and I happened to see him. We came in at the same time. And I'm like, that's a man. It was a man. It was a man. They moved a man in my room. And so I stopped paying rent in that building because I'm like, how are y'all going to move a man in my room? And y'all told me in my lease that I would have a same-sex roommate. I stopped paying the rent, and eventually the housing manager or whatever reaches out to me, and she's like, I'm telling her my situation. She's like, oh, well, we can't discriminate. That's why we weren't allowed to discriminate against.
You tell a black person, let me teach you about discrimination. Why don't you sit down for a second? I'm gonna teach you what discrimination. Have you heard of the word racism? It's not racism. It's racism. Why don't you let me educate you? Holy shit, the nerve on that person. Bet she was a white liberal female.
We had to give him a female roommate. Yeah. The craziest thing I ever heard in my life. I'll never.
Dottie says, Matthew and Spear, your butt cheeks don't hit the cold water. Yeah, but something else of mine does. And it's chilly. I mean, listen, when you're gifted like I am.
Oh my gosh.
It gets cold during the winter. That water's chilly. I'll tell you what.
That day. Because I was like, what the heck is going on in this country? Like, I knew that there were trans people running around. I knew that was a thing, but I never really actually.
Hey, folks, one more thing. If you haven't liked the show, if we have 100 people on, we need to have 100 likes on the show. That makes a difference. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button on the outside of the show.
Or the thumbs up if you're on YouTube. And
thumbs up. You got to hit the like. You got to do that. If you're going to sit with me, listen, you're in my home. I'm feeding you information. I'm a good host. My wife is going to clean up afterwards and be barefoot. You got to take care of us. We need those likes. So please do me a favor. Get out there. I can't believe I'm seeing there we go. 6. That's much better. You got 100 people. You got 200 people watching between Rumble and Twitter. You guys got to give the love. Listen, if I got to get better over the years, you got to get better. You got to be better viewers. Damn it. Throw that like, throw that love, throw that follow, share the subscribe, all that. Here we go.
Paid attention to the impact of that.
I know you do, Sue.
Until it directly affected me, which is how most things work. So upon coming to that realization, I'm like, wait a minute. What laws? Why can't we discriminate against? Why is there a man in my room? Because we can't discriminate. But what about me? I'm a woman. I'm 21 years old. I was 21 at the time. And y'all moving this man in my room? What if he raped me? What if something happens to me? Nobody would care. So
like or love are all the same. Just hit that damn button on the outside, not just in here, on the outside too. Yeah, spam it in here, but also spam it out there.
After this experience, I became extremely interested in these so-called discrimination laws or whatever this person was speaking on. And I done fell down the conservative rabbit hole from that point forward. I found myself watching Matt Walsh.
Oh
of the Daily
shit!
Wire.
Wow, she didn't even rip off. There wasn't even a slow pull on the Band-Aid. She literally ripped it off because Matt Walsh will tell you if you're a woman how wrong you are, black, white, Jew, Gentile. He doesn't care. Matt Walsh will just tell you his opinion, and if he doesn't like it, I mean, there's other guys out there that kind of at least will placate to you a little bit. Matt Walsh is not one of them. He's pretty straight shooter. I like to consider myself fairly the same way, but yeah, she didn't joke around by going right to Matt. I love Matt Walsh. I think Matt Walsh is a father. Everyone goes, he's a conservative. He's smart. He's educated. He's a philanthropist. He's an intellectual. No, he's a father. Period.
Documentary called "What Is a Woman," and it's basically about my situation where trans men are erasing women. And after watching that film, I realized that I was supporting literally satanic stuff. I didn't know. I thought I was being PC, right? No. I was supporting Satan. And I'm a Christian. I was raised a Christian. So I'm like, this ain't right. This is not aligning with my Christian values. Wait a minute. We're calling men women. It's not lying. God doesn't make mistakes. So why am I calling you a she and you're a man? That's a lie. I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm transphobic now. Oh, I'm homophobic now. That's fine. Because I'm not lying because y'all said so. That's insane. So that was just the tip of the iceberg, y'all, because after discovering this stuff about the LGBT, I went on to find out that I was also indoctrinated by feminism. I was racist. I'm black, as y'all can see, right? So it's not okay for blacks to be Republicans, let alone wearing a MAGA hat in public. Come on now. Me and my husband get clowned for this. He's not here, but me and him have the same values. We actually ended up, I'm 23 years old. Y'all thought I did not think I'd be married at the age of 23, but I am. Because me and my husband's values align so much. I'm like, why are we not married? Why are we not married? Why are we cohabitating like this? And we're Christians. We're not supposed to be doing that. Let's get married. And we get it. We went downtown and got married. And no, I'm not too young to be married. People.
No, she's not too young to be married. I got married at 22.
Wow. I married you that young?
Mm-hmm. You were 28. I was 22.
Don't tell everyone how I robbed the cradle. You're not supposed to tell anyone that.
They know how we got together, what age I was when we got together.
Once the roofies and duct tape wore off, you know?
We're young. No, I'm not. I wasn't too young to be having sex with him. Not married. So I'm not too young to be married to him. What are you talking about? It's insanity, y'all. I was racist, y'all. I was content with being racist because when I was in high school, my liberal high school I went to, they taught me that black people couldn't be racist.
That's right.
We could only be prejudiced.
That's right.
Which is some BS.
Yeah, it is BS.
So I was okay with being racist towards other people because they told me that I wasn't being racist. That's insane. That's an insane lie.
Yep. Sure
Y'all
is.
have been censored so much. When I came out as a Republican publicly on my platform, because I'm an influencer on both TikTok and Instagram. I also have a YouTube page. And the initial purpose of my platform was to uplift people with natural hair. Because as y'all can see, this is my real hair. These are locks. And, you know, in my community, most women don't like their natural hair. So that's something I've always noticed. And so that's what my platform was initially focused on, you know, engaging with people, telling them that their hair is beautiful. God didn't make a mistake with your hair. You were born with natural kinky hair. You need to learn to love it. Don't give your baby a perm.
Hayden needs to watch this.
I'm learning to love my long ass hair, man. This thing is turned into a mop.
Hayden needs to watch this.
Dude, for the first time, my hair is as long as it's been since I was overseas. So like, yeah, it's getting long in the back, man. So it's starting to get there. So yeah, I'm embracing my hair. Oh boy, it's hard.
That's insane. That's so late. And I slowly realized that there are deeper issues in our community. Yes, the hair is also an issue, and I'm always going to talk about it, but black people are racist. And I realized this because this is how I made my social transition, right? Because I was like a conservative to myself. Only me and my husband were talking about it. We didn't have any MAGA hats or anything, but we were definitely conservative based. So I posted a video on my TikTok at the beginning of the summer, and it was about, because there's a whole conflict in the black community, if you're not aware, where it's considered cultural appropriation for a non-black person to wear like box braids or dreadlocks like mine, or basically any other black hairstyle. If a white person wears it, then they're gonna get bullied and attacked. And so I think that's very wrong. That's very racist. And so I spoke out against it publicly. I'm like, y'all are racist. Y'all are telling a white...
Amy, I didn't show my hair. I literally just went like this. So, no, I'm not going to show my hair at all. But I will tell you, Olivia, can you attest to this? That it's...
Yeah, it's the longest it's ever been in 25 years since we've been together.
I usually can't stand it when it's on my ears, or I can't stand it. But no, I'm wearing a hat until it's long enough to do something with. But it's starting to... The thing is that my hair grows at such an unbelievable rate. I can't explain it. I had to get a haircut every 2 weeks, so... it's growing fast.
She's not allowed to wear braids because she's white. That's racist. You're telling her she can't do it because of her race. Y'all, I was cyberbullied for this. I had so many people calling me so many slurs. You call me Uncle Ruckus. I've been called Clarence Thomas's daughter, Candace Owens Jr., Coon, etc., etc., etc. Y'all know the slurs. So that's when I realized I was right. I'm on the right side of history, because I'm like, y'all are cuckoo. Absolutely cuckoo, racist, and I'm not for it. I don't support that. So I'm extremely happy that I escaped the Democratic plantation, the socialist, communist, Democratic plantation that I was trapped on, because when I started voting at the age of 18, I asked my parents what to vote for. They told me Democrat, and so I voted Democrat because they told me to. Little did I know, I was literally voting for communism. So yes, guys, I'm so blessed that at the age of 23, I've come to this conclusion, and I'm not out here supporting demonic things like the LGBT and abortion. I'm no longer...
What makes you people think that I'm going to have a man bun? Give me a freaking...
Oh, hell no.
What the hell do you think I am? Do I resemble somebody who would have a man bun in any way, shape, or form? No. No. If you said, Matt, you're wearing cowboy boots, or Matt, you're wearing Rip Aviator sunglasses from Yellowstone. Okay, maybe, but man, I'm an old guy now. Give me, even when I was young, there's no way. No, we're not talking anymore. You're done.
Feminist. I respect my husband. I submit to him, and I'm content with that place. I cannot wait for us to be fruitful and multiply, because that's my purpose on this earth. And I'm so happy that I found this platform, because I'm eating all y'all stories up. So yes, thank you guys so much.
So, Liv, want to get your thoughts first?
She's adorable.
Yeah.
She's so cute. And I love the fact that she's speaking out. And she's not afraid to speak out. And she's calling it like it is. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And, here's the thing I would tell her. She doesn't need advice. Her video is seen. I think the biggest video I ever had was 1.5 million people. And that was pretty impressive. And that was probably one of the most personal stories I've ever shared in my life. So it's amazing that courage is a rare commodity. So it takes a lot of bravery for her to do what she's doing. I think it takes somebody who has intimately been involved with the black community to understand not from what it's like to be black, because that's impossible. But understanding that there is racism inside the black community as much as there is in the white community. And it's not that white racism and black racism is equivalent. It's that it's just racism. And racism is felt on an individual experience. It's not felt on the collective. It's not the way it works. Because if someone comes out and espouses racist things, not the entire community is affected. That's not the way it works. But if you're individually attacked or segregated against or put in a position, pigeonholed, slurred, whatever it be, that's an individual experience. And although there might be a cathartic reaction from the people around you and by osmosis, it's not happening to you. So that's kind of been the adage, is that you're not black, you don't understand. No, I know what belittling a human being feels like. I know what being trivialized feels like, because the thing is this, is that she is going to be attacked now more than she's ever been before. She is going to be attacked. They're going to try to deplatform her. They're going to try to come after her. They're going to question who she is, her credibility, and even conservatives will attack her by saying because she's still going to have some values that are liberal, and conservatives will turn on her too. This is the game. And the only bit of advice that I could give her, I'd love to have her on the show, is to stick true to who you are. You know, I've had some people come back and say, "Oh, Matt, you've changed." Bullshit. I've changed. I am the exact same guy I was 3 years ago. Nothing's gotten to my head. There's nothing to get to my head. Olivia every day goes, "You're a celebrity." And no, I'm not. In no way, shape, or form do I consider myself a celebrity. In no way do I consider myself a social media. I'm a dad. I'm a husband, and I'm honest. That's it. And at 23 years old, she has realized that she has always been awake, not woke. She even said she's seen all these things. She just didn't want to admit it. And the same thing holds true for these people who are like, "Oh, I'm woke." You're not woke. If you were asleep, you're an idiot. How can you not see the things that have been going on in our country? How do you not see the things that have gone on in the world? How do you not pick up a history book and recognize the atrocity? You're not woke. You're just where you should be. You're awake. Your eyes aren't closed. You're not blinded. You're not an idiot. I would love for her to come on the show. I hope she does. I think it would be a great one. I think it'd be awesome. Mm-hmm. Liv, you want to give us some parting words? How can people find us on Spreely?
Go to SpreelyTV.com. And when we're live, we're on Channel 1. And I'm not quite sure exactly. We just go to recorded videos. I still need to figure out how
If you go to Spreely.tv, you can look it up and get it on the Roku, Apple TV, any type of over-the-top device. You can even do it by web, phone. It doesn't matter. You go to Spreely.tv and you'll see there's Spreely News, which we're on, Spreely Social. We're all over the place. Come and take a look at us at thedumshow.com. The link, Olivia has it, to our Link Tap Go. You have that copied?
Let me look.
Yes, Sarah is saying, "Matt, you're a Spreely media host." Sarah always tries to keep me grounded.
I don't.
But you always tries to keep me grounded. Yes, I am a Spreely media host, but I consider Spreely just to kind of be like family, you know? Just it's kind of the way it is. They're good people, and I love being a part of them. I'm going to get you back on here, Liv. I apologize. So you guys can find us at Link Tap Go. If you click that, that's going to give you access to where we're at everywhere. All social. I'm working on this. I'm sorry. It's going to give you access to all of our social media, podcasts, everywhere for Spreely, everything else. The last thing is that if you click Link Tap Go, around 4 down, you're going to see a little thing. And that thing is this. Maybe it's not. You know, I do this. It's ridiculous. I wake up, I'm with you, I see you off to work, and I come in this room and I work all day, all night, and I love it. I mean, it's almost 9 o'clock. And I've now been in here 13 and a half, 14 hours, and I still love it. I love this job. Here is what you will see. If you type this into your phone or whatever you do, link, tap, go, and you can actually click any of these to go find our news channel, which is doing awesome. Has all of our news here. If you haven't seen the latest one, Liv, you saw it today.
It's hilarious.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's Joe Biden. It's the top 10. It's stupideristic. The top 10 stupideristic moments of 2023. I'll give you a little taste. Number 10, cocaine.
I'm going to be so
cocaine in the White House. Here's an example.
hopped up on goofballs and cocaine. I'm going to make Don Jr. look normal. I'm going to be so hopped up.
There are a ton of these little videos.
I know I wasn't your first choice in 2020. Hell, I wasn't my first choice. You think I like getting a syringe of B12 plunged in my ass every morning just to stay alert enough to run this country?
Go watch it. It's pretty funny. So stop on by the news channel. Helps out when you do. But there's plenty of places where you can find us all here, all your social media, and that's a cool thing. Last but not least, if you go here and click donate to the show, this means the world to us. You can actually log in and go to PayPal and donate $10, $50, $100, whatever you can. It doesn't matter. There's no limit. You can put in your own limit. You can give it monthly. You can give it just one time. You don't have to give it all. Whatever you do, it helps keep the lights on. Olivia and I are completely funded by ourselves. Spreely is trying to help us and take care of us, but honestly, we haven't even started collecting from Spreely. We haven't really done anything at all. We're waiting for that to kind of come to fruition. So this is hard work. It's paid for by Olivia and I. We've done it since day one. We like to be free. We don't want to be beholden to anyone, and your donations help make us successful. Liv, when are we on? We on tomorrow?
Yes.
Thursday. We're on Thursday. I'll have a recorded show in the morning, news in the afternoon, and a recorded show tomorrow night. Olivia, say good night.
Good night, y'all.
See you guys later.
Hang on one second.
What are you doing? What do you? Oh.
That's from Uncle Stuffy on Rumble. Happy Valentine's Day from Uncle Stuffy.
No tongue? That was weak.
Oh, you want me to give you another one?
Well, not in front of everybody. we can just go. We can go early.
That was from Kevin.
Well, thanks.
Happy Valentine's Day from Kevin.
Thanks, Kev. Tina, I found out we can engrave the box if you want to know. It's not cheap. He has to run a template for it. He has to compute it in the laser. That takes a lot of time. But if you're interested, we can do it. I think it's $25 to do an engraving on the backside. Let me know, Tina, if you want that. But we're shipping out stuff. I think we'll do it tonight. So we'll get everybody as much as we can. We've got 2 more books coming tomorrow. We'll get everybody's stuff. Go over to thedumshow.com. Thanks so much. God bless. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.
Night, y'all. Happy Valentine's Day.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.